Okay. All right. As Tim mentioned, the focus of today's session is to introduce all of you to Timberscan, which is the leading, industry-leading accounts payable automation software developed by us here at Core Associates. My objective over this next hour is to show you how capturing information and documents electronically and then using automated workflows in our software is going to save your company a tremendous amount of time and give you the visibility and control that's really impossible to do in a manual environment. I want to share some background on the evolution of Timberscan and Core Associates. When we developed the software many years ago, our focus was around accounts payable automation because that was the biggest pain point at that time. We've since evolved into a complete enterprise content management system. So you can think of Timberscan as a central repository to really manage all the documents and content for your company. Our vision and our goal was to be able to leverage technology to help companies like yours be more productive, more efficient, and really drive profitability. And that's still our goal and our focus today. With Timberscan, we wanted to create a paper-free environment for companies and really bring them into the electronic world. Enable process automation. So we talk to companies all the time that are still passing paper folders around the office and doing their approvals that way. By automating, you can reduce your invoice cycle times as well as your processing costs. Eliminate frustration with finding and dealing with lost documents. So with Timberscan, there'll be no more having to dig through filing cabinets. Information will be available at your fingertips. Provide transparency and visibility. So making sure you know where invoices are in the approval process. Reduce your data entry time and errors. And just be able to provide quick and easy access to the documents and information that you need in order to make informed business decisions. Okay. So these are some of the drivers of Timberscan, and I'll be focusing on these key areas as I go through the presentation here this afternoon. In addition to being an electronic routing and approval system for accounts payable and all other documents in your organization, Timberscan's a collaboration tool. It provides an audit trail and visibility into financial information about your jobs and properties. It's proven technology. It was developed in 2004, and it's currently used by roughly 2,000 companies and 30,000 users worldwide. Okay. And because Timberscan's been around for 15 years, the product's been built on many years of direct input and feedback from our customers. And these are companies similar to your businesses, construction companies, specialty contractors, property development, and real estate management companies. And that direct input's really shaped our product and influenced the design of our software. And you'll see that here in a few minutes. We're also the only AP routing and approval system designed exclusively for Sage 300 CRE. Okay? And that's an important consideration, and I think you'll see that in the depth of the integration as we go through the presentation. Our approach when we design the software is really try to replicate the Sage AP user experience as much as possible within our system. So you can think of Timberscan, as an extension to your Sage software. Beyond Timberscan, we created Core Cloud Systems, or CCS as we call it, which is our electronic mobile e-form solution. Okay? And it further extends the concept of a paper-free office into the field, and it integrates with both Timberscan and Sage. Okay? We have solutions for field time capture, credit card and expense capture and reconciliation, as well as field purchasing and receiving. And you can also create your own custom forms using our eForms wizard. Okay. So at a high level, the workflow process, regardless of which solution you were to use, looks like this. So if we look over here in the left, you can capture information using the mobile forms from anywhere on any device. This is a screenshot of the credit card solution. We have access to your Sage data tables. So you can have lookup fields embedded into that mobile form, which allows for validation at the point of data entry. Things like jobs, cost codes, employees. Once the form is completed, it gets sent into Core Cloud Systems to an approval grid. And then you can have approvals based off your workflow processes. Okay. The approval is optional, but a lot of companies use it. The forms and then anything captured on the device, like photos of receipts, are stored in CCS, and they can also be stored in Timberscan. In the example of our credit card solution, which is what we're looking at here, there's also a reconciliation process that takes place within the system. The statement from the credit card company is uploaded, and then it's reconciled against the transactions that have been submitted by the cardholders. So if anything is missing, you can ping the cardholders right from within CCS. And then once your transactions have been approved, they can be sent to Timberscan or to Sage electronically. So in the example of purchase orders and receiving tickets, they can be sent to Timberscan and then be available as supporting documents for when your invoices come in. So the design of core cloud systems is to provide a seamless single entry data capture from the field right through to the back office. I'm not going to show core cloud systems during today's presentation. The focus is going to be on Timberscan, but I did want to make you aware of our capabilities in this area. CCS is really, the next step in creating your complete electronic environment. If you would like to take a closer look at it, please reach out to Alliance or just contact us at Core Associates, and we'd be happy to set up a demonstration for you. Okay, last slide before we get into the software. It just lays the groundwork for the AP routing and approval workflow process, and provides just a nice illustration so you know what you can expect if you were to use the Timberscan software. So if we look up here in the upper left-hand corner, we'll start from the time an invoice would hit your door, and there's a number of ways to acquire invoices into Timberscan. For the ones you're getting in hard copies in the mail, you can scan them using a network copier or scanner. For the invoices coming in via email, if they're coming in on an individual basis, you could drag and drop them into Timberscan. If you have a centralized AP inbox set up, which a lot of companies do nowadays, we have an email monitoring system that will monitor that inbox all day long. So as emails are coming in, we'll automatically grab the attachments from those emails, and we will move them to a network file folder that you specify. And then Timberscan connects to that file folder and can bring all those invoices in automatically. We also have OCR capability, optical character recognition. And what that allows us to do is, as you're acquiring images into the system, we can read the text from that scanned image, and then we translate it and automatically populate the data entry. Okay? So this can be a really big time-saving tool. You do have to set up templates for your vendors, but that's really easy to do, and I'll show you an example of that when we get into the software here in a moment. From the data entry standpoint, a few things I want to point out here. One is that you would no longer do your data entry within Sage. It would be done within Timberscan. But we've replicated the data entry grid from Sage right within Timberscan. So from a training and an implementation standpoint, it's very, very easy for users to get up to speed because they're already familiar with the user interface. We also link to your Sage data tables, so we can access within Timberscan your jobs, your cost codes, your GL accounts. Okay? And the idea is, as you're entering data into the system, as soon as we have enough information to know what to do with that invoice, we'll then route it out for approval automatically. Okay? And then we send an email to the approvers letting him or her know that they have invoices for approval. And the approvals are based on your business rules. So you define them, and then your implementation consultant would help you set them up as part of that process. You can also do your approvals remotely, so users don't have to come into the office. They could do them from the field using a smartphone or a tablet. Once you get through the approval process, we have this final review stage, okay? And this is optional, but a lot of companies use it, and it can be done by somebody in accounting or anyone else in the organization. And it's just an opportunity to get a final set of eyes on the invoices to make sure there's nothing missing, everything's been coded. If you have any supporting documentation requirements, to make sure that those have been fulfilled. Because what you're doing as you go through this review and approval process, you're building a packet of information. So at any point during the process, you can attach supporting documents to your invoices. So purchase orders, packing slips, insurance certificates. And the end result is a packet of information that then gets sent over to Sage and is available via the paperclip option and is also available in Timberscan. So one of the nice benefits of Timberscan is that your accounting department has full visibility to who has what, the total dollars, how long they've had it, and then your operations or your field users, they can run reports that include not only what's been posted in Sage, but they can also see the invoices that are still in the approval process. So if you need to do cost inquiries for your jobs or your properties, you can easily get that full picture view with Timberscan. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hop into the software. And I'll make this full screen here in a moment. But this is the main screen of Timberscan. And all I did to access the software was I clicked on this icon here on my desktop. So based on your user credentials, that's going to dictate which features and functions you have available to you when you log in. This is the main menu. So you can see the system has these nice big bright buttons. So it's very user-friendly, very intuitive to navigate. We also have this dashboard view. This is optional and it's configurable by user. But the idea here is just to be able to zero in on invoices quickly or things that need your attention. Making sure you're taking advantage of the discounts. If you need to look at some invoices by vendor, just gives you a nice, quick, easy tool to be able to do that. Across the top, these are the functions that I have available to me. All of these relate to the accounts payable approval process with the exception of this AIM button, which stands for Advanced Image Management. And I'll touch on that a bit later in the presentation. As I navigate across the top, these are the control buttons that I have available to me, the action. So as I navigate across my functions, my action buttons change here on the bottom. Go ahead and hide the dashboard for now. So the first step is to acquire some documents. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. In this example, I'm just going to take some that I have from my email. So you can just take them and drag them and drop them into the system. If I was using the email monitoring and having things sent to a network file folder, what I would do is here under image source, I would just select file. I need to tell the system what I'm acquiring, which is invoices. And then I would click on this open file button, and this will allow me to browse out to my network. So that I would just select the file folder where my invoices are going, hit open, and then that's going to automatically bring all those invoices into my acquire screen for me. I also have to assign a data entry group at this stage. So I only have one here in my demo database, but you could have as many as you want. So if you have multiple companies or divisions or locations and they all do data entry, you could have all of those set up here. I have my action buttons across the top, along the side here, as well as on the bottom. So I can zoom in or zoom out here. I can also just use the wheel of my mouse, which is what I'm doing right now. But the two things you're doing at this stage, you're doing some sorting and ordering of your pages, and you're doing some quality control. Okay. So over here, these are thumbnail images of all the documents that I scanned in, and the system will try to do some sorting for you. So in this first example, this was a 2-page PDF, so the system recognized it as a 2-page invoice. But if I click on this, it's actually 2 separate invoices. This is invoice 393. And then this is invoice 394. So all I need to do to make this a separate invoice is I highlight it and I could either say mark as a new invoice, or I could just right click and say insert page break. Okay. So now I have 3 distinct invoices. Okay. But pretty quick and easy to do. You could get through a whole pile of these here pretty quickly. Over here, I have captions available to me and sticky notes. So I can add an annotation to the document. I have a highlighter capability. I could do some free-form writing on here as well. Okay. If the document was sideways or skewed a bit or crooked, I have options over here to straighten it out. But once I'm happy that the quality of my documents looks good, I have everything sorted and ordered, I would just go ahead and hit this process button. And that's going to take all of my invoices here in this batch, and it's going to move them to the data entry group that I've assigned. So that's one way to acquire. Now, if you're using the optical character recognition software, instead of using this acquire button, you would use the acquire capture invoices. And the only difference is this just tells the system as I'm acquiring the documents to look at any templates that I have on file and compare the invoices that I'm acquiring to those templates. Okay. So we're going to take a look at H&D supply. It's very easy to set these up. And all I'm doing here, when I set up the templates, I'm telling the system, when I get an invoice from H&D Supply in this example, where to look on the document to find key pieces of information. Okay. So the anchor is what tells the system that the invoice is from H&D Supply. So you need to select a unique piece of information that is unique to this particular company. Most folks will just use the company name, but it could be, an email address or a phone number as well. I'll come back to identifier in a minute. You can highlight the invoice number. So in this case, it's a little bit bigger for you. In this case, if this was being set up for the first time, the highlighter would be in the center of the page, and then I would just drag it and drop it over the information that I wanted to highlight. Okay. And if you notice over here on the left, this is my results panel. So it's telling me how the system interpreted the piece of information that I highlighted. So here everything looks okay. Invoice date, same concept, just drag it and drop it. I can have the balance due. In this case, it's at the bottom of the invoice, but we do support multiple page invoices as well. So if you had, an invoice that was multiple pages and the balance was on the second page, we can accommodate that also. You can highlight a description. In this case, this is what I have highlighted here. If the job is on the invoice, you can highlight that as well. If not, you can just skip it. Same thing for the commitment. Okay. And then once I've highlighted everything, I hit this review button, and this just shows me all of the results for everything that I've identified. Okay. Now, coming back to the identifier, I can also set up invoice coding. So this is where I would tell the system that H&D Supply equals this vendor in my Sage system. So this is a drop down into Sage, into the vendor file. So you would select that here, and then when you receive the invoice from H&D Supply, your vendor number is going to default automatically. You can also set up some other default coding, okay, and that's where you can use your identifier. So in this case, it was an account number, but you could use this for reoccurring invoices, maybe phone bills or utility bills. And then you could use the identifier to highlight a key piece of information on that invoice. So if it was a phone number, maybe that phone number belonged to a project manager, and you wanted to say, every time I get an invoice from this vendor with this phone number on it, I want it to go to a specific job and a specific cost code. If it was a utility bill, maybe it would get coded to a certain GL expense prefix. Okay. So this can be a really big time-saving tool here. It's all about efficiency and productivity. If you're depending on the volume of invoices that you're doing, you can save quite a bit of time on a weekly basis here. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at data entry. We've acquired our documents. Now we need to do some entry. The system's telling me I have 10 primary invoices here. You'll see I have the kind of the same layout that I had on the previous screen. I have my function buttons on the top and along the side and down here on the bottom. I can still use the wheel of my mouse here. The data entry grid is along the bottom. Okay, this could actually be dislodged and moved. So I could drag this and drop it onto another screen. In a lot of cases, you know, if you have separate monitors in your AP departments, you could have the full image on one monitor and you could drag and drop the data entry screen to a second monitor, or you could just, you know, simulate it on one monitor if you wanted to. So we can go ahead and start doing our data entry. If I know the vendor, you could go ahead and type it in. If not, you would use this list option, right? Or your function keys in Sage will work in Timberscan as well. And I can do a lookup by vendor number, vendor name, or address. Okay, an address is something we added. So it's just another data point that you have available to you to make sure that you're selecting the correct vendor. You can also just start typing in and it'll narrow down your search results. So I'm going to go ahead and select my power equipment rentals. You'll notice I'm getting a compliance warning here. If you're using compliance tracking in Sage, you will get those warnings in Timberscan as well. So I'll go ahead and enter my invoice number. Okay. Now, as soon as I did that, I'm getting this duplicate invoice warning message. So this is an example just of the depth of the integration with Sage and what we call a data entry point validation. So as soon as I entered the information here, I immediately got this warning. It didn't wait for me to, you know, enter 10 invoice line items, get to the bottom and save, and then say, oh, we have an issue. Okay, so the system lets me know right away. Now, if I don't remember this particular invoice and I want to go ahead and do some investigation, I can hit this history button here, and this will show me all invoices for this particular vendor. Okay. Now, I only have one page here, but real world, you might have multiple pages. Any of these columns here are sortable and searchable, so you could come up here and just type in the invoice number. Okay. I know what it is, so if I come down to that invoice and I scroll over here, this details button is going to tell me how the invoice was coded. Now, I also have these tooltips available to me, so I can see the original commitment amount, any change orders, the total amount, what's been paid, what's been invoiced, the amount in Timberscan, and my balance, my revised contract amount, job to date billed, what's in Timberscan, and my balance. And the same thing for the cost code and the category. And these tooltips are available all throughout Timberscan, not just within this one screen here. And then I can actually call up the image of the invoice. So I can see the invoice, any annotations, the approval page. So this is my complete audit trail for this particular invoice. I can see when it was received and by whom, who entered it and when, who approved it and when, who did that final review process, and then when it was posted in Sage. Okay. I can see any supporting documents. In this case, I have a purchase order. And I can also see the check. Okay. And then right from here, I can take this whole packet of information and I can go ahead and email this off. So if I wanted to send this to the vendor, include this PDF as, or the packet as a PDF attachment, and just put a note in here saying this is a duplicate invoice, please see attached information. I could go ahead and send that email off, and then that email will show up for me under this view notes. Okay, so this is going to log any activity for this invoice. So this can serve as a collaboration tool, any email correspondence, any internal communication, so that everybody throughout the process has complete visibility to what's happened with this invoice. And any new comments would be entered here, and those also end up under this view notes button. All right, so I know this is a duplicate. I'm just going to go ahead and append it so I can finish my entry here. So that was my line item information. Down here, this was my header information, and down here, this is my line item information. You'll notice I have this commitment field. So if I'm using commitments in Sage, you could enter it here. If you don't know what it is, you can use your lookups again. This is a multi-line commitment, so I'm just going to select one, but you could select, all as well. Okay, getting my compliance warnings again. And then you'll see as soon as I entered that commitment, all of this information populated for me automatically. So this was pulled right from that Sage commitment. And then over here, I can see information about the commitment as well. Total commitment, what's been invoiced, what's in Timberscan, and my balance. If this invoice was going to put me into a negative situation, the balance would be highlighted here in red also. Okay. Now I can have multiple lines, as many as I want here. I'm just going to show an example. So depending on what your approval process is, if you're using the job as your approval, okay, you can just put in the job. So you can put in very minimal information, and then the system's going to work based on your workflow rules. So a lot of companies will have it based on job and it'll go to the project manager. It doesn't have to work like that. The system is very flexible. It can be based on invoice type, general ledger account, vendor. You could have multiple levels of approval, approvals based on dollar thresholds. So maybe it goes to a project manager up to 10,000, but if it's over 10,000, it needs to go to a superintendent. Okay. So like I said, very flexible on how you want the system to work. All right, some other things here that I can do from the data entry screen. I can go ahead and send emails. I can also attach supporting documents. So this is going to show me, based on the vendor job combination that I entered, any supporting documents that are available to be attached to this invoice. So I have a number of things here in my demo system. You'll notice I have this keep open column here. So in the example of a purchase order, if this purchase order has been 100% fulfilled, I could still check it off to be attached to this invoice, but leave it open so that as subsequent invoices come in, I could attach it to those invoices as well. But I would just tick off the supporting documents I want here, hit attach, and then that's going to attach them to this invoice. Okay, and they would appear over here in the left as thumbnails to that invoice. I could also change the type from here. So this would be used if you had, maybe the invoice is a high priority and you want to bypass your routing rules in this particular instance. You need to get a check cut out the door ASAP. This is where I would do that. In my test database, I have automatic approval set up, but you could define and set up as many of these as you want. Maybe it's high priority, and then you could change the invoice type, and then that will, like I said, override your routing rules in that particular instance. Okay. I could put the invoice on hold if I wanted to from here. If you needed to, inquire with the vendor or internally and you just wanted to put it aside for now. I have all my annotations available to me here as well. But once I'm done with my data entry, I would just go ahead and hit accept, and then that's going to move me to the next invoice. Now I just want to show you, this is an example of one that was acquired using the Capture, the OCR software. So this is the invoice that we had looked at, that template, the H&D supply. If you're using Capture, you can see here at the top, all of this header information automatically defaulted in. And in this example, there was some default coding that was set up for this template for H&D supply. So I had some line item information default for me as well. All right. That's what the OCR example would look like. Before I touch on the approval process, I want to show some of the reporting options that we have available. We have a number of out-of-the-box reports available. We're not going to have time to touch on all of these today, but I just want to show you a few of the popular reports and inquiries that are used by our Timberscan customers. If we look at this invoice status report, this will tell me everything that's in the review and approval process. 26 invoices in total, and there's my dollar value for those invoices. And then I can drill into this in more detail. This is the breakdown of all of those invoices. and the dollar amount. Doug has 10 here, so we'll take a look at his. Now this tells me when they were assigned, by whom, the vendor, the invoice, date, description, and then I can also link to the image from here as well. I would see any supporting documents, any annotations, and then I can also email from this screen as well. This is a very nice management tool. It just really helps you kind of lock down and tighten down the approval process. For those of you that are doing T&M work or cost plus projects and have to provide billing backup, this is a real quick, easy way to be able to gather that information. You can look at just a specific job or a date range. I'm going to look at everything here because I don't have a ton of information in my demo database. Based on that selection criteria, that's going to return everything that met the criteria that I outlined on that selection screen. All of these columns are sortable and searchable. And if I scroll over here, you'll see for all of these invoices, I can access the log. I have visibility to all of the history on the invoice, and I can also view an image of the invoice. And then I can create a report from here. If I want to create a PDF and include report and images combined into one, I have the option to include supporting documents, check images, and a number of grouping options available here as well. And then when I create this report, this is what it would look like. At the top here, I have a summary of all of the invoices. And then if I scroll down, I have the actual images themselves. And if I clicked on, supporting documents or checks, I could see the whole, packet of information here as well. And I could just take this PDF and send this along with my monthly billings to my customer. And so customers really like this. This can be, like I said, a really big time saver. Number of inquiries available. I'm going to select everything, but you can narrow this down by date range. This is a nice one if you want to do some searches for invoices, based on a certain GL expense account. I know auditors sometimes will ask to look at it by account. You can also add custom conditions. So this gives you the ability to really narrow down the search, and this is available on any of these fields. So you can use your wildcard matches, starts with, ends with, very powerful to be able to get to the piece of information that you want. And then you can also turn this into a report. So if you wanted to, similar to the billing backup, if you wanted to create an output by expense account, same scenario here, but this is broken down by expense account, and then you can have all of your invoices as backup. All right. So now we'll take a look at the approval process. There's a number of ways to approve invoices. You can approve them right from the main menu here. The system's telling me I have 9 invoices for approval. Now, if I only have a few minutes, maybe I don't want to look at everything and I just want to look at invoices by a certain job or by a vendor. Okay. I can narrow the list down here. Okay, I have all my same function keys available to me on the approval view as well. Now, as an approver, if my job is to just review the coding and make sure everything looks okay, I'll do that down here. If my job is to, code, then I would go ahead and start doing my coding. I can use my list of options here as well. Put in my amount. Okay, now you'll notice as soon as I enter that $5,000, I'm getting this warning that I've exceeded the estimate threshold tolerance here for this particular category. If I want to go and do some investigation to get a better picture of the financial status here, right from this screen, I can hit on the job button, and this is going to take me to that job inquiry. Now I can see here all of the invoices. So this shows me everything for this project. The total dollar value is just under $500,000. And if I want to, narrow it down by a certain cost code or a category, I can sort and search on any of these fields. I can drag and drop them, really use this as a report writing tool. Then this shows me the breakdown by cost code, how many invoices per cost code. This is all the invoices for that code, a sum of my total by cost code. And then I can look at the logs. I can view the images from here. I can turn this into a report as well. So very nice, quick, easy way to get a financial snapshot of your project right from within the approval screen. So you don't even have to leave this page here. I could add supporting documents at this phase as well. I could send emails from here. I could reject, or I could put the invoice on hold in AP. And what that will do is it'll allow me to approve it, but it'll go over to accounts payable on hold, so it won't be able to be selected for payment until somebody in accounting removes that hold. It could be you want to approve the invoice, maybe the dollar value is okay, but you have some outstanding punch list items or something, so you don't want to go ahead and actually have a check cut for this invoice yet. At any point as well, you can also attach documents, so you don't have to use the supporting documents down here. If you just wanted to attach an email or other document, this will allow you to browse out to your network, and you can grab any documents and attach them here, and they'll become part of this packet of information. Once I'm happy that everything looks good, I would go ahead and hit approve, and that'll bring me to my next invoice. Now this is the mobile view. This is Timberscan Go, and this is what will give you the ability to do your approvals remotely. So when I log in, this gives me the card view. These are the invoices that I have to approve, and then I can click on the invoice that I want to take a look at. I can make the image larger, smaller. These are my thumbnails or my supporting documents. Anything I've collected along the way would be visible here. Over here on the right, this is my header level information for the invoice. And then up across the top, I have my action buttons. So again, I could put it on hold. I could route from here. I could reject it. If I reject, similar to the the desktop view, I would have to put a reason in. Same thing for the hold in AP. I have to put a reason. I could view notes. So this tells me, the audit trail of the invoice. I could add a new note. I could go ahead and approve from here. And I can look at the distributions. I could add a new distribution, look at existing distributions. And then if I have security access, I could go ahead and, change the coding from here as well. So this is the more of the desktop view. This is what it would look like on a phone. Okay, so this is a simulator. It just gives me the ability to show different devices. So that's a Galaxy S5 example. If we wanted to look at an iPad, and then I can rotate it horizontal as well. I could blow it up. Features and functionality, are the same. It's just a slightly different interface. Look at the iPhone X. Okay. Instead of having the functions across the top, I have this drop down available to me here. And then I also have one on the bottom. All right. So that is the approval process. You could also approve from this dashboard view here, but I know we're running a little short on time. So I'm not going to show that. I just want to get through the rest of the process here so you can we can bring everything full circle for you. Now, once I've done my approvals, if we think back to the PowerPoint slide, okay, we finished up our approvals here, and then we move on to our final review process. So that's right here, and it's telling me I have 3 invoices. And this is very similar, very consistent interface all throughout. Looks very similar to the data entry and the approval screen. The difference is you'll notice down here we have Q for export. So same features and functionality available. Everything's based on security, of course. And then I would just come in here, do my final review, make sure everything has been coded, nothing's missing. And then I would export, Q for export. Now, once it goes over to Sage and you pay the invoice and you cut the check, we have the ability to come back into here and attach the checks. Okay. Now, if you're using, if you're printing to like pre-printed check stock, you would come in here. Once you print them out, you would have to acquire those checks into Timberscan, and then you would select your batch and the bank account and your starting check number, and the system will ripple through, and it's going to take an image of this check and attach it to any invoice that was paid by this check. And it does it automatically for you. If you're using Print Boss or Create a Check, it's a step easier. You don't have to reacquire them into the system. You would come in here, put your bank account, starting check number, and then Timberscan's going to look to that file, and it will ripple through that file, and it'll automatically go out and attach the checks to the invoices that way. Now, I mentioned at the onset that you would be able to view the packet of information in Timberscan as well as in Sage. So if we look at Sage, we go into our AP transactions. We'll look at power equipment rentals. That's the one we've been using today. And this invoice 24011. Okay. And see the paperclip is highlighted here. So if we go ahead and click on that, it tells me I have documents available. Okay. And there's my packet of information available within Sage. I have my invoice with the annotations, my approval page, supporting docs, and an image of my check. Okay. Now, one last thing I wanted to show, I know we're getting close to our time limit here. I want to make sure I leave time for questions. We also have the advanced image management portion of Timberscan. So up to this point, we focused a lot on the AP routing and approval. AIM is where you would manage all other content for your company. So it works very similar to AP. You would acquire your documents. Okay, so you have to select a data entry group here. You can drag and drop them in and hit process. That's going to bring them into the data entry portion. All right. Now you'll notice here I have document category and document type. These are set up as part of the implementation. I like to think of the document category as the filing cabinet drawer. So in this case, if we look at project management, and then the document type as folders within the drawer. Okay. So within the project management category, I could have as many document types as I want. And then you would set up indexes for all the various document types. So every time you acquire a document of that type, you specify the information that you want to capture. And this is what becomes your, search criteria down the road. And all of these lookups are lookups into Sage. Okay, so you're going to have data entry validation here also. You can have workflows associated with any of these documents as well. So you can route, you can add notes, you can email, you can see the history, very similar to the accounts payable side. And then you also have, if you have workflows, they would show up here in your workflow task queue. And then we have this advanced search engine. Okay, so this sits across your entire repository of information that you've collected. And you can use this to look up information very quickly and easily. If we take a look at project management, for an example, you could select multiple categories as well. You could also select multiple document types. I'm just going to take a look at drawings here. You can also save your searches. So if it's something you're going to look up multiple times, you can save it, and then you can just access that search via the drop down here, so you don't have to redo it all the time. And then you can add conditions as well. I'm going to go ahead and do my search. So this is just showing me in the project management category all drawings that I've collected. So I can see them all here. I can view the images. I could add a note. I can view the notes in the history as well. If I needed to edit, I can do that from here. And then I can see if there was any workflows associated with that particular document. And then I can add conditions, and you can have as many of these as you want. So you can really get pretty granular and detailed. So if I say I just want to look at, drawings where the job is equal to, we'll say, Northwest Food Warehouse. Okay, and then I search. Okay. So my search results were narrowed down. So now I'm only looking at drawings for that particular project. So in addition to being, an AP routing and approval system, like I said, we really are a complete enterprise content management. So you can manage the content across all of your company here. Now I'm going to stop. We're at 10 minutes to the hour. I want to make sure that we have enough time for questions. So Tim, I will.
All right, Leanne, this is. Yep, I am back. Okay, everybody. So we do have one question from Peggy here, and once again, to ask questions, you should see a questions icon where you can click that and type your question in. So, Leanne, are you able to keep an image of a W-9 or COI for each vendor on the vendor level, not the invoice level, so that it does not have to be collected at each invoice?
At the vendor. Yes, so vendor is going to be one of the indexes. So if we think back to the scenario here, when I pull up my supporting documents, if you want to attach that document to multiple invoices, similar to the purchase order, you could use that keep open option, and then you could attach that to as many invoices as you want. So when you set up your supporting document categories in your indexing criteria, you would just have vendor be one of the indexes, and then you can keep that open to be attached to multiple invoices.
All right, Peggy, if that did not answer your question, go ahead and just comment back in the question box. This question is from Mark. Does the on-hold invoice feature line up with the pending invoice in Sage 300?
Well, if you put the invoice on hold here, you're only putting it on hold in Timberscan. So let me come out of here, I'll show you. I don't have any held invoices here, but if I put the invoice on hold, let me show you actually in the Approve Review. I think I have an example here. Oh, here we go. So this here will tell me any invoices that are on hold. So when I hit the hold button, it's only putting it on hold within Timberscan. If I use the hold in AP, then it's going to put it on hold over in accounts payable. But the hold in Timberscan is really just within Timberscan.
All right, thank you. Do you have to buy a license for each person?
Yes, the licensing is based on named user, but it's much cheaper, I'll say, than a concurrent user license model. The reason we license based on named users is because we want to make sure that everybody can get into the application when they need to. If you're doing it based on concurrent licenses, you could be blocked out during peak usage, especially during the course of the month. You're going to have ebbs and flows and peak times throughout that month. So having that named user license, like I said, guarantees everybody will get access when they need to.
All right, thank you. We have some additional questions somewhat related. I'm going to ask a couple of them here together. Is Timberscan only on one computer, and does each person have to also have Sage?
You do not have to have a Sage license to use Timberscan. Okay, so Timberscan is server-based, and then you could deploy using like Windows or terminal services to access that way. But yeah, so you would use terminal services or Citrix to access the system. But it is, like I said, it is server-based.
Okay. Here, let me see here. I'm just going to read this. How Suzanne, I believe you're asking, how would you process only some of the invoices, not all of them?
Process all of the invoices. Are we talking about, I guess, at which stage?
She's saying yes, like she said yes in a batch.
In a batch. Okay, so if we look at, let me pull up this slide here. So when we acquire the documents, everything is done in batch. So when we acquire the documents into the system, you're acquiring, the batch of invoices. When they go to the data entry queue, they get sent in a batch. So you have to select the data entry person that you want to send them to, and then that entire batch of invoices gets sent to the data entry person. And then based on the approval rules, you might have, out of 20 invoices in the data entry view, they will, when you hit the finish button here, let me show you because this might make more sense. So when you do your data entry, when you hit accept, that's going to advance you to the next image or the next invoice. And then when you hit finished, that's going to take everything that's in the batch here and then route those out for approval. So if there's 20 invoices in there, it's going to send them all out, but they could be going to a variety of people depending on your routing rules.
All right. There was a question, do you have to be in the cloud? And Timberscan is a server installed based program. If you're hosting with an application hosting provider, Timberscan would just run on that. So I'll answer that question. Do POs have to be entered into commitments in Timberline, or can the POs be scanned into Timberscan so that invoices are credited to them?
The PO, can you repeat that one again?
Yeah, do POs have to be entered into commitments in Timberline or Sage 300, or can the POs be scanned into Timberscan so that invoices are credited to them?
So if you're using commitments, if you're not using commitments in Sage, then that's okay. If you are, you would be able to access your commitments right from within Timberscan, and then you would take a copy of the invoice. If you want the purchase order to be available as a supporting document, then you would have to acquire that into Timberscan. We do have something called Commander, which is an extension to Timberscan, and that would give you the ability, if you're printing purchase orders from Sage, the Commander is like a print engine. You could print using Commander, and it would automatically send a copy of that purchase order into Timberscan, and into AIM and index it for you so it would be available to attach as a supporting document within Timberscan.
All right. Maybe you might be able to answer this. How long has it taken businesses to go paperless using Timberscan, and have they reported any issues with making the transition? And I would think that would pretty much depend on the customer and your resources. But Leanne, I'll let you give your take on that.
Yeah, sure. So typically, I mean, customers will most often, I'll say, get started with accounts payable. You don't have to. You can do everything all at one time. You could do the AIM and the AP. But if you just start with AP, I usually say, we could get you up and running on AP within 4 to 6 weeks. And again, that depends on, your resource availability as well, and just depending on what we have going on at the time or Alliance has going on at the time. And as far as issues, normally we don't have problems with folks adopting the system. And I think one of the reasons, goes back to what I mentioned in the presentation relating to the integration with Sage and really replicating that AP user experience within our system. Because it's very similar to Sage, it's very easy for users to adopt and get up to speed. Once folks start using it, they love it.
All right, everybody, we're at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and end this now. Like I said at the beginning, your account manager at Alliance Solutions Group will be following up with you, and they can answer any questions. And if you'd like to arrange a demo specific to your organization, they'd be very happy to do that with Leanne. All right, so thank you again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Leanne.
Okay, thank you.